It's Christmas time. The malls are open, the decorations are out. We're even allowed to see each other face to face. But having lived through almost 2 years of the pandemic, with many of us still facing grief, loss, financial issues, and anxiety, do we still celebrate? Is there any reason to celebrate Christmas this year? Let's talk. Tara, usap tayo. Good day, everyone. It's a few days before Christmas as we speak. Christmas is a season we look forward to. It's that time of the year which many of us, especially here in the Philippines, regard as the happiest time of the year, synonymous with parties, gift giving, family reunions, cold weather, and staying warm with the people we love. However, having lived through almost 2 years of the pandemic, many of us are or are still faced with grief, loss, financial issues, and emotional and mental issues brought about or heightened because of this pandemic and the lengthy lockdowns. All these things make it difficult for many of us to feel excited for the holidays. So, faced with all of these challenges, as well as still, the uncertainty of the coming year, do we still celebrate? Is there any reason to celebrate Christmas this year? To help us sort out our thoughts and feelings about this holiday season, I have invited some dear friends whom I have not personally seen in years. Our first guest is a licensed psychologist by profession who obtained his Bachelor of Arts in Psychology degree from the University of the Philippines and finished his Master of Arts in Counseling from the De La Salle University in Manila. He started his career in government service in 1996 and is now the chief of the Community Services Division of the Parole and Probation Administration, an agency under the Department of Justice. Aside from work, our guest keeps himself busy by accepting requests for counseling and psychotherapy on a pro bono basis for those who cannot afford to pay for the services of a mental health professional. Our guest loves dogs and he has three at home. Waco and Wendy are very sweet and loving American bullies, while Coco the Chihuahua typically acts like a queen at home. Our guest is a proud Bulaqueño who hails from the town of Pulilan, famous for its kneeling Carabao Festival held every May in honor of Saint Isidore of Labrador. Ladies and gents, please welcome Mr. Danny Capili. Good morning, Danny.
Hi, good morning everyone and Merry Christmas to one and all.
Wow, salamat Danny for being here. Our next guest is a writer, professor, and communication consultant. He is a poet, and his early poems were published in the Philippine Graphic. His poetry has appeared in international journals and other publications of contemporary poetry, including the Wales Haiku Journal. He is the co-author of Breaking Ground Through English, a textbook on world literature. Our guest loves to travel, and he has written travel essays as well as film reviews for Manila Bulletin and Travel Plus. He has lived and worked as an English teacher in the US, Japan, and the Maldives. Our guest has a book out called Sunsets Are Sonnets and Other Poems. And just 2 days ago, his latest book, entitled Written on Water, went on limited release. Please welcome Mr. Alvin Cruz. Good morning, Alvin. Teacher Alvin.
Hello, good morning. Good morning, Pao and Danny and Joanne. Hi.
Hi, good morning, Teacher Alvin.
Good morning. Thanks for inviting me.
Yes. May kasunod pa yan. Finally, our third guest. She has a bachelor's degree in journalism from the University of the Philippines and a master's degree in English literature from the University of Warwick in Coventry, England. She has written 2 activity books for children, Bible ABC and Bible People Old Testament, published by HIAS, the children's book imprint of OMF literature. She has contributed poetry to Joyful Light, modern Christian poetry by Filipino women, and also Querida, an anthology, and Under the Storm, an anthology of contemporary Philippine poetry. She currently serves as the editorial supervisor of OMF Literature. A newly launched book she edited is This Season of Grief, Stories, Poetry, Prayers, and Practical Help, wherein she also contributed an essay. She and her husband homeschooled their 2 lovely children. Ladies and gents, our dear friend, Joanna Nicolas-Na. Welcome to the podcast, Joanne.
Thank you, Paolo. I'm excited to be here, and hello to our listeners.
Yes, thank you, Joanne, for being here. You know, I have not seen these guys in person for years, pero I see them every day on Facebook and Instagram. Teacher Danny, I mean, honestly, I think the last time I saw you was, I don't know, 2009. So by the way,
I
sa mga
think yeah. I
mga
think it's
listeners,
2012 maybe.
really? Well, yeah. So for Joanne tsaka dun sa mga listeners natin, so siguro throughout this episode, I'll be referring to Alvin and Danny as teachers Alvin and teacher Danny because we used to teach together in an English language school for Koreans 15 years ago.
Yeah.
10 to 15 years ago. So si teacher Danny, I think really talaga parang 2009 because that was when I left teaching.
That's when you left teaching?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then si teacher Alvin, I'm pretty sure the last time I saw you was in a movie theater during a film festival somewhere.
Yeah.
This
I
was
think ano pa yun? European Film Fest?
maybe
Something
this
like
was
that.
like years before the pandemic, siguro mga
Yeah.
2017 ito.
Mm.
And then
Right.
si Joanne, the last time I saw Joanne 2019.
Yes,
I think
at
that was
least.
during the Manila International Book Fair.
Was it?
Yes,
Or was it after? Basta memorable sa akin yung we met after a long period. We met sa
sa Green
anniversary,
Hills
sa reunion concert ng
ng
Putris
Putriska.
Ka.
Yes. But
That's what I
I think,
remember.
yeah, I think that came first before the Manila International Book
Okay.
Fair. So,
So good.
yeah, that was when that book was launched and you were you wrote a poem for that book. Yung Joyful Light, yung sinabi
Oh,
ko
thank
kanina.
you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. So well, for our listeners also, by the way, our guests don't know it yet, but I am hoping that this episode is going to be a preview of the next few months because surprise, I am inviting each of our guests back to the podcast for their individual interviews. Actually, that was the original plan. I was supposed to do this episode alone, but I figured this would be more meaningful with other people. So I decided to invite you 3 prior to your originally planned episodes. Naka-line up na 'yan. Sana
Sure, no problem, of course.
sana pumayag kayo.
Of course.
Ako payag ako, promise. Pero dapat may video na sa susunod.
Ay nako. Okay, so let's get down to it. So Teacher Danny, how are you? How have you been keeping yourself busy? I know you're very busy with work also.
Well, the pandemic has certainly, brought about a lot of challenges. But
Mm-mm.
yung work, with regards to work, hindi nagbago eh. Kasi kahit nung work from home, we were required to churn out outputs kasi lalo na pag nasa government service ka, importante na tuloy-tuloy ang public service, hindi dapat siya mahinto. And I think I've been stressed out a lot by the pandemic. I must admit to that one. Pero trying to keep my head afloat, no, so to speak. Pero okay ako. I think I'm pretty good. Yeah.
Actually, tama yung Teacher Danny. But in my case, I think being busy at work also helped me get through all of this.
Yeah. Because work is therapeutic.
Oh, yes, of course. That's why it's important to really be involved in the kind of work that you want to do. It's para it doesn't feel like work. It feels like it's like just like being you. When you're in the
Yeah,
office, it's just
precisely.
you being
Precisely.
you.
Yeah.
Joanne, so how have you been? What's keeping you
Mm.
busy?
I also work full time and I'm a mother, homeschooling, so I'm
Mm-mm.
really, really busy. In fact, I would say my life has gotten even more exhausting, even though I'm working from home.
Mm.
Mas mahirap kasi mag-set ng boundaries. So when I was working at the office on site, siyempre
Mm-mm.
pag tapos na yung 8 hours, I go home and then iba na yung focus ko.
Mm-mm.
And when I was at the office, yung work ko lang sa office yung iniisip ko. But now that I'm working from home, so kasi I'm an editor, so habang nag-edit ako, iniisip ko ano ba yung iluluto. Or minsan, iniisip ko yung niluluto ko. Madalas, nakakalimutan ko rin. So, ilang beses na akong nasunugan ng ulam namin. So, it's hard. It's hard to focus. It's hard
Mm-mm.
to set boundaries on time.
Mm-mm.
But if you ask me how I am, I will say I'm just coping.
Mm-mm.
Try
Mm-mm.
to cope.
So
Yun.
Joanne, so all this time you're just at home, you're not going to the office at all?
Oo, since March 2020.
Wow.
Mm.
You don't miss your office?
Hindi naman, but I miss the people.
Mm. Nako.
Oo.
Kasi ako in my case, it's like I cannot work outside the office.
Oo nga.
What I'm saying is it's easier for me to do my work when I'm in the office instead of at home. I think there's really people who are like that. So ako
Oo.
yun, ganun ako.
Mm.
And Teacher Alvin, so kumusta ka? How have you been? How are you? And what have you been up to? I know that you have 2 books out.
Well, just like si Danny and Joanne and most of us, I'm also working from home. I'm teaching college students sa FEU Alabang. So at first it was really a big challenge kasi hindi ako techie na tao eh. So talagang ang dami kong bloopers no nung nagtuturo ako in the first few months. And I thought I was going to lose my job because of it. Pero with a lot of what do you call this? Learning, no, and unlearning. Thank God I was able to manage, no, with the help of some people, no, some colleagues, no, and and aside from work, I'm also as you have introduced me kanina, no, Pao, busy ako sa pagsusulat ng poetry, specifically haiku. So, and
we're going to talk more about that in your episode.
Yes, sure. So yun, in a matter of 2 years, the whole time na nandito tayo sa pandemic, I was able to produce 2 books of poetry. Huh? So I really look at it as one of the the silver lining in all this. No? And particularly sa buhay ko. Yun, saka na natin pag-usapan. Siguro sa one-on-one natin, Pao. Yun. So there.
What can you also say about the past 2 years aside from your working situation? How about your families? Were they okay naman sila? Because I know personally a lot of people who lost some loved ones this past 2 years. So kumusta naman kayong tatlo? Hopefully hindi naman ganon.
Maraming mga kapamilya na nagkasakit ng COVID-19 no in the past 2 years. And
Okay.
And for us na maswerte na hindi nagkasakit, we tried as much as possible to lend a helping hand kasi hindi biro ang mawalan ng income for like being quarantined for 2 weeks, na may pasusuhin kang anak, na may pakakainin kang pamilya. So, ganun kami, nag-exert kami ng effort. So, I'm very fortunate. Baka masamain ng mga tao, no? Pero we see it as a blessing because my sister and I were talking about this, no? At the start of the pandemic. Sabi niya, Kuya, sabi niya sa akin, it's a blessing din pala na kinuha ng maaga si nanay at si tatay. Kasi we don't have to worry about them during the pandemic. And, yeah. Kaya iniisip namin dalawa, sabi ko, oo nga, no, blessing. Kasi hindi natin sila makikitang mas maghihirap pa kaysa, you know, so it's a good thing. Kasi sabi ko doon ko naisip nung nag-uusap kami ng kapatid ko na talagang blessing siya in disguise. Pero may mga staff na nagkasakit, na na-quarantine, you have to manage work, you have to manage your family life din, yung pagtulong sa pamilya. Pero kasi dito sa bahay, kaysa lang ako lang at saka yung partner ko ang magkasama dito sa bahay. So talagang we're closed off to the world during the pandemic. So relatively protected kami from the virus. Pero yun nga, the challenges brought about by the pandemic was, you know, very hard on some people, and that you had really to extend the helping hand. Talaga, promise.
Yeah. In my case, I have been very busy this past 2 years. Just when the pandemic started, nagkaroon kami ng project, and then, you know, we in the office, we talk to each other, and we tell ourselves that we feel very blessed, we feel very lucky because just when all these things are happening, you know, meron kaming trabaho, we are busy. So even if sometimes it gets really stressful, we just feel thankful that, you know, we have something to stress about, and, you know, that pays us. So yon, because we know that there's a lot of people na up to now, even if things are looking better, they still haven't got their jobs back.
Actually, a great blessing din talaga.
Yeah,
Great blessing yan. Oh.
How about you, Teacher Alvin?
Hello? Yes.
Yes.
You mean how I took
the past 2 years, how were they for you?
Well, aside from my adjustment, no, sa online setup namin sa school, you know, kasi gala ako eh. You know, Paolo, you know that.
Yeah.
As you also mentioned.
Me
in the
too. I mean,
introduction,
we all love to travel, right?
Yeah. Si Danny din, no? I don't know with Joanna. Pero, yeah, so syempre na mi-miss ko yung paglabas-labas, no? And especially si mama and my parents, I used to take them out every weekend, no? So I felt sorry for them na hindi ko sila na ilalabas, you know, at during the whole time of pandemic, no? So yun, yung being confined, no, at home, and buti na lang, so I found myself reconnecting to my passion, my first love of writing poetry, no? Doon ko na rediscover. I would describe this pandemic season as a season of my rediscovering of myself and reclaiming my passion for writing, which I was able to set aside because of parang na-sidetrack ako sa maraming bagay na walang kabuluhan. Yun. So it's so as Danny said, naging blessing in disguise talaga sa akin to. Kung hindi dahil sa pandemic, siguro up to now, siguro I'm still finding my ikigai. my reason for living, no? Yun. Yeah, so that's it.
Ikaw, Joan, do you want to add something?
I agree with Danny kanina na when
Mm-mm.
he mentioned that he's thankful that his parents are now with the Lord and they were spared. Sa akin naman kasi, my parents are still with me,
Mm-mm.
but they live on their own.
Mm-mm.
They're elderly na, so sila lang ng father ko dun sa bahay nila sa Manila. They used to stay with us before the pandemic kasi sila yung nagbabantay sa mga anak ko. But during the lockdown, it was a Friday, di ba, March 12. Umuwi sila with the thought na babalik pa sila sa amin.
Mm.
Pag-uwi nila, nag-lockdown na, so hindi na sila nakabalik sa amin. So since then, they're living on their own.
Mm.
Okay rin because sheltered silang dalawa lang.
Yeah.
Kasi lumalabas din minsan kami
Mm.
for errands. So
Mm.
they're secluded. Kaya lang, it's also a cause for worry for me.
Mm.
Kasi silang dalawa lang and
Mm.
there have been several instances the past months na nagkakaroon sila ng health issues and it was very hard for them kasi kailangan nila magtawag ng kapitbahay.
Mm.
Like last night or the other night natumba yung mother ko so
Oh
hindi siya
no.
makatayo.
Sorry. Oo.
Yung mga ganong situation. So that's weighing heavily on me yung situation ng parents ko.
But I know that you've seen them naman
Oo.
you still see them every now and then.
Oo, like mamaya bibisitahin.
Okay.
Mahirap lang yung day-to-day nila kasi they're matanda na sila eh.
Oo.
The things that we can easily do, mahirap na for them.
Yeah. So my next question siguro is akma doon sa sinabi mo na huli. What has been the most difficult thing that you had to go through this past 2 years and how did you overcome it? How about you, Teacher Danny? What has been the most difficult thing that you had to go through this past 2 years?
Well, not being able to move out, move about, you mean? Kasi tayong mga tao, naturally, nomadic tayo eh. We like to move about, pasyal dito, pasyal dyan, and sightseeing. And I love to travel, no? Sabi nga ni Teacher Alvin, I love to travel. Pero yung trouble na hindi ka makalabas at makapamasyal is very stifling kasi parang restricted yung freedom mo, tapos nakikita mo yung dread sa paligid mo, and it really affected my mental health, no? Kasi hindi naman porket na mental health expert ka o psychologist ka, hindi ka na makaka-experience. I'm not immune to these types of things.
Yeah.
But I found it healthy to be able to provide help naman to those na nagsasuffer ng mental health difficulties. In fact, yung UP Psych Serve ng Diliman, I volunteered doon sa grupo na yon, no, for a few months. We're taking in free patients na yung talagang nagkakaroon ng problema, and that added to parang a sense of belongingness and community na parang naging nakatulong din sa akin ng malaki yung nakakatulong ako sa kapwa-tao ko na dumadanas din ng problema na kagaya ko, no, na anxiety, ganyan, yun. So yun yung mga difficulties talaga na mahirap na parang iwasan, no. Kahit umilag ka, tatamaan ka kahit paano eh. I think wala naman taong hindi naapektuhan eh, unless you're very mayaman, and you're comfortable in your own personal space, you're in a mansion and you have everything that you need. Pero for people in the middle class, especially those in the lower economic classes of society na nakaka-experience ng problema, imagine mo yung problema, no? And yung challenge ng pamumuhay became even more difficult because of the pandemic. Yeah.
Teacher Alvin, what has been the most difficult thing that you had to go through this past 2 years? Apart from yung sinabi mo na you've had problems dealing with all this technology that you need to be able to continue doing your work.
Yeah. Siguro I would say yung living with the anxiety that my family could and might be infected, no? The possibility, no, was always there, and it still is there. Yun yung the anxiety of it, no? In fact, last May my brother got COVID. One of my eldest brother, and we were very worried about him. So, pero thankfully, no, thank God, he survived it, no? Yeah. So, I
How was
guess
he? Hindi naman lumala.
No, lumala. He was almost hospitalized. Pero, knowing my brother na he believes in supernatural healing from God, yun ang pinanghawakan niya, and, he was healed. Yeah, so, we were very just relieved na nalampasan niya yan. Pero talagang kinakapos siya ng hininga. Alam mo yung may oxygen tank na siya, halos ganon. Yung bumaba yung kanyang, yung ang tawag doon, oxygen level ba yan? Yan. Yun. So, that was one of the, siguro yan, yung toughest times namin as a family during the pandemic.
How about you, Joanne?
Mahirap sagutin yung tanong, no?
Bakit? Marami ba?
Kasi, for me kasi, the year before the pandemic, yung 2019, my family suffered a major crisis. The house we were living in ever since I got married, nawala sa amin.
We're so sorry.
Thank you. Later ko na lang siguro in another episode i-kwento yung mga detail.
It's okay. It's okay, Joanne.
But it was, we were displaced March of 2019. So we lost our house, or it's not really our house. We were staying, it belonged to my husband's family. It's an old ancestral house, but we were staying there for so many years na, and the understanding was dun kami, but because of some family issues, biglang nawala. So we were displaced. And it was also that time na stroke yung father ko, that's 2019. So there were a lot of things happening in my family at the time. And major issue yun, saan kami pupunta. But the Lord provided, and we were able to find a house. Doon kami nakatira nung from 2019. Kaya lang nung last year, so nung May naman 2020, we had to move out again in the middle of the pandemic. Kasi
so stressful.
Oo, very, very stressful. So parang yung word na naiisip ko to describe my last 2 or 3 years is the word displacement. Hindi lang kami physically displaced, pero because of the pandemic, I feel emotionally displaced, mentally displaced, even sometimes spiritually displaced. So yun yung ko ngayon. That's how I will describe our situation.
Nako. Joanne, I know how that feels to be displaced. I mean,
I know.
We also lost the place that we were living in because of a fire. Yeah. So I know how that feels. And siguro not many people are mentioning this, but some of the most difficult things that we had to go through this past 2 years then is basically yung dealing with family members, friends, and coworkers who were or are also going through some negative effects of the lockdowns. Like for example, suddenly people have really bad tempers. Suddenly nagkakaroon ng parang mental outbursts and mental health issues yung mga kasama natin. Like me, for example, I'm still dealing every now and then with my mom. Parang because of the lockdowns, parang nag-iba siya. Nag-iba yung the way hindi na siya as pasensyoso as before, alam mo yon. So,
hirap talaga for the elderly.
Yeah, for the elderly. So para bang I am the one dealing with that. Siguro hindi niya yun napapansin, but I'm sure it's also very stressful. That's why she's having these things also. And but for me, one of the most difficult things that our family have to go through, but not only me or my family, but I see a lot of families going through the same thing. We have important people, in the world. A lot of important people in the world, or even our loved ones, they passed away this past 2 years. And many of these people deserve the most grand exits, the grandest of funerals, uh, ceremonies. And because of the pandemic and COVID-related lockdowns, parang they had some really seriously unceremonious exits from this world. Para bang feeling ko, like for example, in at the start of this pandemic, I had an aunt and an uncle. They were husband and wife. They passed away weeks apart. The deaths were not COVID related, but because of the COVID lockdowns, I mean, these two people, they were prominent in their own way. They were prominent within the family. They were prominent in their professional circles. These were the kinds of people, like, especially in the provinces, like if somebody important passes away, and they will have very, very long funeral procession. Siguro, Teacher Danny, you're familiar with this. And then, and then may mga padasal and all that. But they did not have that. And para bang in, in sa sarili ko, para bang a lot of these people who passed away this past 2 years, parang they do not deserve the kind of exits that they got from this world. So I don't know, maybe hopefully when this pandemic is over, kung kailan man yon, we can look back and parang we can somehow pay tribute to these people whom we lost in a way that they truly deserve. Yun yung sanang gusto kong mangyari din. Yun. Okay.
That's true.
What was the biggest wake up call? What's the biggest wake up call you've had to deal with during this pandemic? Any wake up calls? Yung para bang because of this pandemic, you realized, oh no, ito ganito pala siya. So,
Well, the biggest discovery is, of course, first and foremost, the ineptitude of this government to address. I mean, we share the same views. So
Yes.
talagang they're very inept when it comes to addressing the pandemic at the start. They had to give it to generals and retired generals instead of doctors, epidemiologists to handle the pandemic. And then parang the biggest wake-up call, walang ibang magtutulungan kundi yung kapwa Pilipino na nasa paligid mo.
Yeah.
Kasi yung gobyerno mas bent on beautifying the statistics of the pandemic rather than seeing eye to eye with the people kung ano talaga yung pangangailangan. And it was a wake-up call for me to be bent on telling people that in the next elections, please, we must be very critical of our choices, that we must be able to elect leaders who will, truly serve and reflect the values that we Filipinos have. Yun lang. Kaya I've been telling people a lot, no? Yung pandemic, it brought the worst and the best out of people. And the worst came out from this government. It really did. It really did.
Our guests are nodding. Teacher Alvin, Joanne, biggest wake-up call?
Okay, for me, siguro yung the realization that we really have no complete control of our lives, no? It really made me reflect on and ponder on the more important things in life. No?
Exactly.
Call it dramatic, pero talagang
Mm.
iyon ang una kong pinag-isipan, no? Na ano ba talaga ang parang biglang kasi biglang kinuha yung buhay mo, di ba? Parang we lost a big part of our lives, no?
Mm.
So it left me thinking, naku, ano na, what do I have left? How can I move? How can I continue living, no, with this? And so si God, so I had a time to think things through, no, spiritually, no?
Mm.
So doon inano sa akin ni Lord ng bakit marami siyang ni-reveal sa akin mga gusto kong gawin noon na siguro ito yung time na the best time, no, the perfect time to do, no, which is ang isa doon is yung mga sinulat ko tula nung 1990s pa, no, sa Philippine Graphic. Matagal ko nang gustong gawing libro yon, Paolo. And nung pandemic, no, I wanted to keep myself still productive, no, and busy. And so I tried to look for those poems, no, that di ko na alam kung saan ko kahagilapin yung mga kopya noon. Alam mo naman, wala pa naman digital copies noon, di ba? 1990s.
Nagkalkal ka ba sa library?
Hindi. No, hinalukay ko yung naitago kong
Microfilm
clippings.
division ng UP Diliman.
May clippings pala. May clippings pala akong naitago. Wow. Yun. So, and then, ayun, ginather ko siya. And together with my new haiku, so ayun, pinagsama-sama ko siya. And I came up with that, my first book. Ayun. So, it really brought back life, no? Thank you, Pao. Thank you for plugging. Okay, yun. So, parang nabigyan ako ng pag-asa, no? Personally, sa kabila ng nararanasan nating pandemya. Yan.
Nako, alam mo, totoo yan, Teacher Alvin. Well, I have come to this realization even before the pandemic, because before the pandemic, mga ilang sunod-sunod din na tragedy yung na-experience ko. Pero, one of my realizations talaga kapag, a tragedy comes like this, para bang, it really doesn't matter how much money you have or who you're connected to or how famous you are. Kapag talagang if misfortune comes for you, it will come. Yun. Tsaka, in the past, we have heard of, really wealthy people dying of dengue fever. Para bang somehow that's very difficult to connect for the ordinary Filipinos, but those things do happen, and when they happen, they could happen to anybody.
Yeah. Pero isipin mo, no? Mayaman, may lamok sa bahay nila. Di ba?
Yes.
Di ba? Isipin mo, di ba?
Yeah.
Parang sa ordinary Pilipino lang dapat siya mangyari. Pero, wow, may lamok.
Totoo yan, Teacher Danny. Ikaw, Joanne, biggest wake-up call you've had to deal with?
Hindi ko naman siya i-consider na wake-up call. I would say the pandemic reinforced the things I already know or value. Ang pinaponder ko ngayon, parang mas naging concrete sa akin yung the afterlife. Kasi alam naman natin, we've all lost.
Yeah. It's okay. Yeah, I mean, I totoo yan, Joanne. Because of this pandemic, parang it became very obvious kung what are the most important things in life. I mean, I used to place a lot of importance on other things like entertainment, and I used to collect a lot of things. And then when those things are taken away from you, um, parang at first, when those unimportant things get taken away from you, siguro in 1 or 2 days you feel really bad. And then in my case, what happened to me was after a week, it was that feeling of loss was replaced by a feeling of relief. Na para bang,
Oo.
oh wow, I don't have to think of those things anymore. I don't have to
Mm.
think about how to store them wherever. Parang hindi ko na
Oo.
problema yung storage and all that. So, when tragedies like this happen, it really refocuses our thoughts, refocuses our minds on kung ano yung important talaga.
Liberating.
And I also think that in my case, personally, so many things happened to me this year when it comes to my spirituality. Parang I really think if this pandemic did not happen, this year would have turned out so differently. It would have been any other year, like any other year.
That's true.
I think.
So liberating. The pandemic has liberated us also from many things that bind us. So it can be material things.
Yung tinatawag na idols. Yung unnecessary things that we place importance on.
And it has also given us a vision of the future, the future that we want. Parang niisip ko ngayon, syempre, kasi we're all living on the edge. Imagine. We are living with a virus that we cannot see, that is in the air. We don't know when kung kailan natin masisinghot yun. Diba? The air that we breathe is actually deadly. Ganun yung buhay natin ngayon. So we're really living in dangerous times. Parang, ano bang pelikula yun?
A Dangerous Life, 1980.
Dangerous Life.
Kasi Tomas.
Kasi Tomas.
Everyone can relate to that film.
Kasi Tomas and Ruben Rustia.
Ayun. So, yun, it has, mas nag-iisip na yun ako, the afterlife, how am I living my life in light of eternity? And dahil may mga anak din ako, so isang iniisip ko how can I prepare my children for the future? Kasi syempre, mas naisip ko na immortality ko ngayon. Paano pag wala na ako? Parang ganun. How will my children survive? Tulad nga ng nasabi ni Danny, wala tayong maasahan sa prevailing system ng governance, yung how the pandemic is being addressed, and ang dami na nating utang, iniisip ko rin yung utang ng gobyerno natin, yung mga anak ko at mga apo ko pa magpabayad, trilyon yun.
Magpabayad.
Oo, so I'm looking to the future, but it feels uncertain. So I try to focus on Jesus, who has promised us eternal life. So this life is hard, but I know that there is a better life. Yun na lang iniisip ko.
Thank you, Joanne, for for opening up. Kayong dalawa, si Teacher Danny and Teacher Alvin. Okay, maiba naman tayo. Have there been any unintended good things that came out of this pandemic situation for you? Any good things that came out of this situation? Ako, umpisahan ko na. I love physical distancing. I love it. It's one of the things I hate about living in Asia. It's like, kapila ka sa jeep, para bang, teka, akin ito eh. This is my space. Bakit ka umaatras? Alam mo yun? Parang,
your thigh is touching another person's thigh.
Oo. And many people hate their face mask, but the thing is, in my case, 2 years before the pandemic, I already wear face mask. Nagfi-face mask na ako because of my allergies. The doctor said that I should wear face mask. So second nature na sa akin yung face mask. Pero during the pandemic, especially during the lockdowns, I love the clean air of Metro Manila. Early this year, I started walking around Metro Manila like 4 hours, 2 hours, 3 hours. And before 2020, I never thought I would say this, but I never really thought that Manila could be very pleasant. Can you imagine Manila being pleasant for walking? But I actually experienced that for months. Right now, it's not so much anymore because things are going back to how they used to be when it comes to all these vehicles. But that's one thing I would miss then during all these things. But hopefully, wala nang mga lockdowns na ganun. But yeah, I would miss yung ganong unintended good things. Teacher Danny, Teacher Alvin.
Rafi, promise. Yung being able to travel na hindi ka nagkukumahog sa oras, 'di ba? kaya alam mo, thankful ako na doon sa traffic situation sa Pilipinas, medyo wow. Parang sa Pilipinas, nasa Pilipinas ka ba na nagbibiyahe ka na ganito ang kalsada, 'di ba? And then yung natuto kang halukayin yung mga recipes na pinakatatago-tago mo sa buhay mo. Tapos you're trying to share it to the world. You know how I love to cook and how I love sharing my recipes. Tapos nag-enjoy ako doon actually sa ganung klase ng yun ang mga bagay na-enjoy ko during the pandemic. Cooking and gardening. Yan, promise.
Yan. Teacher Alvin, any unintended good things that came out for you?
A lot of things actually, but I'm not gonna name them one by one. But basically, yung having more time to write. How I love and enjoy it now.
Actually, having more time. Period.
Oo, yun. Parang looking back before the pandemic, parang I feel like there was so much time wasted. Yun. And then nung nagka-pandemya, nasa bahay ako, and I kind of eventually nung una parang nabobore ako, pero later on parang when I started getting used to it, getting the hang of it, na-enjoy ko yung every day I would write one haiku a day at least, no? And siguro that's why I came up with another book. Hindi ko na-expect that I would come up with another book so soon, no? After the first one came out. And that was unintentional, very unintentional.
Yeah.
So, yun, yung being more creative. The gift of creativity that God has given me at this season of my life at 53, parang tingin ko I even wrote a haiku about that, no? Para akong isang bulaklak na nag-bloom out of season, no?
Anong title niyan, Teacher Alvin? 53? Parang albums ni Adele yan, ha?
Nakarelate ako dun, Paolo, si Adele. But anyway, yung parang isa pang natutunan ko dito, it's never too late to pursue what you really want in life.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Sobra.
Tama.
Oo.
Yeah, si Teacher Danny magkakaroon ng cookbook yan.
Yes.
Magugulat ka na lang, oo.
Yeah, go for it, Danny, ha? Isa ako sa mga bibili niyan.
Oh, sure. Magugulat kayo talaga, promise.
Ay, nako, sige. Yun, so I'm thankful for those things. Yeah.
Ikaw, Joanne?
Hindi ako mahilig magluto. Kasi yung father ko nagluluto dati nung kasama namin siya sa bahay. Nagluluto lang ako pag Sabado at Linggo. Nung nagka-pandemic, since yung father ko na hindi na namin kasama, so araw-araw ko nagluluto. Oo, thankful ako, at least buhay pa yung family ko. Hindi naman they survived my cooking. So yun, thankful ako doon. At least mas confident na ako magluto. Ng konti lang. And another thing I'm thankful for, yun nga, yung sabi rin ni Alvin, ni Danny, ikaw rin, Paolo, is time. So mas mahaba yung oras na kasama ko yung mga anak ko ngayon. At dahil nag-homeschooling kami, mas natututukan ko yung mga lessons namin. Dati kasi, dahil nga working full-time din ako, weekends lang kami nakakapag-lesson. So thankful ako doon. Kaya lang yung mga anak ko, tinatanong pala ako, when are you going back to work? Tinanong ko, bakit? Tinanong ko, bakit? Are you sick and tired of Papa and Mama being home? Sabi nila, yes. Kailan daw kami babalik sa office? Yun.
Oh. So kayong tatlo, ito naman yung next question ko. How has your professional knowledge become useful for you in getting through these times? So merong writer, dalawang writer dito, and then there's a psychologist, and of course si Joanna, you also do administrative work sa office, managerial work. So paano nakatulong yung inyong line of work or yung inyong knowledge, professional knowledge in dealing with this pandemic, in dealing with the past 2 years?
Halos lahat yata ng mga relaxation techniques na itinuturo ko sa kliyente, especially yung breathing and trying to reflect and immerse yourself in the environment. I think nag-improve sa akin yung mindfulness, no? Because I practiced it a lot. Because mindfulness allows you to, take hold of your experiences and derive meaning from it, and it releases your mind from the stress and anxiety na floating around. And I'm glad that I was able to use some of them in my personal life during this pandemic, and yun din ang ginagawa ko actually, tinuturo ko rin siya sa iba. Kasi para pag natutunan nila, mapapawasan yung may mga isipin sa buhay. No? Yun isa sa mga na nagamit ko sa aking sa aking practice, sa practice ko sa personal life ko na nagamit ko. And ano pa ba? Yung nalaman ko na isa pa lang magandang exercise yung paglilinis ng bahay. It's hard. Promise. It's hard work. Promise. Hard work talaga. Yung magwawalis ka lang, tapos magpupunas ka ng mga furniture, pagpapawisan ka na. Pero it's a good thing kasi parang
mindfulness.
Mindfulness. Parang, di ba nagagawa mo na itong mga bagay na to na dati hindi mo magawa kasi super busy ka sa work mo, and the pandemic has given you a lot of time in your hands para gawin yung mga bagay na nakakalimutan mo na halos na gawin. Yun.
Ikaw, Teacher Alvin.
So, how my profession helped me? Yung ba yung question?
Your professional knowledge.
First of all, financially, no? Nagkaroon ako ng isa pang sideline, no? I'm really, really grateful that while many people lose their jobs, ako, nabigyan pa ng extra, and I'm so, I felt like I don't deserve it, pero God is so gracious to me. Binigyan ako ng sideline ng editing job, no? Sa isang kasi naging virtual na yung mga management, di ba, yung mga event management sa SM, ganyan. So medyo nagkaroon ako ng editing job doon. So financially nakatulong sa akin, and then emotionally naman yung pagsusulat ko, siyempre naging outlet ko siya, no, Paolo? To express, I'm a person who needs to express myself. So, and I do that best sa pagsusulat ko, Paolo. Yun.
Thank you, Teacher Alvin. Ikaw, Joanne?
Ako, natatandaan nyo nung March 2020, di ba nagsara yung mga industries?
Yeah.
Oo. ang isa sa mga isinara is publishing,
Yes.
bookstores, even printing.
Mm-mm.
Tapos it took several months with yung lobbying pa with IATF to allow printers and publishers to operate. So at that time, parang isip ko, relevant ba talaga itong ginagawa ko? Kasi literally, di ba nakikita natin people are dying. Tapos yung, yes, Paolo.
Yeah. Continue.
Oo. Yung pag nakikita ko yung mga driver ng jeepney, dati, nanghihingi sila dun sa, on the very streets where they used to ply their jeepney. So very heartbreaking yun, di ba? So inisip ko, ano bang kahalagahan ng libro? Ano bang ginagawa ko? Kasi at that time, at the start of the pandemic, di ba, may kakulangan ng PPEs, ng gamot, ng people are losing their jobs, walang source of income. So parang nag-iisip din ako, ano ba itong ginagawa ko? May magbabasa ba itong ng mga librong ginagawa namin? May yung sagot nakita ko sa isang libro na ginawa rin namin. Yung as a response to the pandemic, yung where I work, yung OMF Literature, we came up with a book. Ang title niya is This Season of Grief.
Yeah.
Yan. Tungkol siya, it's a collection of stories, poetry, yun nga, prayers, and practical help on dealing with grief and loss. So, ako yung editor, so I looked for people to share their stories of loss of a loved one, loss of a job, even loss of a work, yung work-home balance. Tapos yung mga ambiguous loss, alam mo may nawala sa'yo pero hindi mo mabigyan ng pangalan kung ano yun. Nararamdaman mo lang. So, yun yun yung libro. Tapos, ano talaga siya, nung ginagawa ko siya, doon na-realize ko, okay, may value nga talaga ang written word, may value ang stories, may value yung malaman mo na hindi ka nag-iisa kasi may isang tao na nagkwento nung pinagdadaanan niya. Hindi man kayo parehong-pareho ng sitwasyon, pero yung nararamdaman nyo,
similarity.
Oo, may similarity. So doon ko rin appreciate yung life affirming din talaga ang books and the written word and writing. So yun nga, di ba? Ano nga ba yung verse? Yung word, Jesus is the word. Ano nga ba yung? Anyway, the word of life, yun. Something like that. So parang yun, mas naano talaga sa akin. Yun. Books
ganda naman sinabi mo,
essential.
Joanne. Yeah, books are essential.
Oo.
Maganda yung sinabi mo kanina.
Oo naman, tama yun.
So,
as much as it is therapeutic for writers to express their feelings, it is also therapeutic for people to read.
Yes.
You know? Kasi part yan din ng therapy, yung reading, no? Kaya malaki na itutulong. Sa totoo lang, malaki na itutulong ng mga writers sa kagaya ninyo sa pagpapaunlad ng mundo at saka nakaisipan ng tao.
Thank you.
Thank you, Daddy.
So in these times we are in, who are the people who have been helping you go through all these things? Let's start with you, Teacher Danny. People.
People.
Well, actually, it could be anybody or anything.
But I'm fortunate to have a very supportive and understanding partner in life, no, na nauunawaan niya yung trabaho ko and how I have to, always be out of the house. Katulad ngayon na kailangan ko pumasok because of work. And then I'm also very fortunate to have a sister who I can talk to. Kasi yung connection, dalawa na lang kaming natitira sa mundo, kami na lang magkapatid. So lagi kong sinasabi na para kaming si Anna tsaka si Elsa. Oo, siya si Ana, siyempre ako si Elsa, no? Dagusa na na walang ibang magsusuportahan kundi kami lang dalawa. Kaya pag masama yung loob niya, kwento siya sa akin. Pag may chismisan kami dalawa, kami nagkakaalaman. Kasi pinapakita lang namin sa isa't isa na na kailangan magtulungan tayo, ganyan. So yun, I'm thankful for na nasa paligid ko sila, yung mga kapitbahay na supportive, yung mga staff ko na masunurin kasi sa totoo lang mahirap akong supervisor, demanding ako. Output driven akong tao. Naghahanap ako ng quality, ng pride in quality palagi. So nauunawaan nila yung desire ko, and yung challenges ng pagmamanage ng thankful din ako sa technology kasi I can manage people using technology, Facebook, email, ganyan, no? So yun naman, maraming bagay na dapat ipagpasalamat, no? Ako pagising pa lang sa umaga, salamat ka na nagising ka. Yung amoy ng kape sa umaga, yung brewed coffee, ang sarap na, tapos yung simoy ng hangin, yung halaman sa paligid mo, ano. Pero mostly salamat talaga sa mga taong nakapaligid sa akin, no? At sana ganun din yung feeling nila, no? Feeling ko lang dapat siguro naman mutual yung feeling nila kasi kahit paano din naman I'm trying my best to to be kind and merciful and loving. Kaya sana ganun din sila sa akin, ganun.
Teacher Danny, you forgot to mention your pets.
Well, yes, my pets, they're so makulit, Every morning, matatawa ka na lang sa kanila kasi pagbukas ko pa lang ng ilaw, nakaabang na sila sa bintana. Hinihintay nila akong lumabas, to gang up on me. Pero sabi ko nga sa iyo, pati yung lahat sila na dito, pati nga yung mga kapitbahay namin hindi na natatakot sa mga alaga kong aso kasi they're so mabait, Hindi katulad ko na mabangis. Oo.
Ikaw, Joanne, sino yung who are the people who have been helping you go through all these things?
Tulad ni Danny, thankful din ako sa kasama ko, yung husband ko, si Nix, kasi patient
Belated
siya.
happy birthday sa husband.
Oo, salamat, sweet ka, Paolo. Yun nga, kasi na-mention mo kanina, Paolo, na people, because we have so much stress, we get impatient, I get impatient, I lose my temper, so thankful ako kay Nick na very patient sa akin. Ngayong pandemic, I tried, kasi nga hindi ako lumalabas, walang face-to-face, I tried to reach out to more people. And thankful ako na kahit wala akong nakikilala physically, I gained new friends online. May mga sinalihan akong Bible study group, prayer group, and I met new people from those groups.
Yeah.
So hindi naman lumiit ang mundo ko nung pandemic. Lumaki lang siya digitally.
Ikaw, Teacher Alvin.
Sana all kay Danny, sana all may partner. Kasi I live alone. I live alone. So pag weekend, itong nagiging support ko, I have my second home sa sister ko, no? Which is very close naman sa bahay ko, no? Sa where I'm living now. Iyon ang nagiging parang a change of atmosphere ng routine ko everyday na hindi ako nakakalabas. Parang I always look forward to a weekend. So actually ngayon nga nag-text sister ko pinauuwi na ako. So pinapupunta ako doon ngayon. So yun, that is a very big booster sa akin, no? Emotionally. And aside from my family, no? This year pala, I started, reaching out to the international community, no, of haiku writers. I am very, very, very privileged not to have known them, no? Itong mga journals, international journals, poets, na napaka-humble nila, kahit na mga award-winning and accomplished, they would what? Give me advice, no? Meron akong mentor na isang editor na napakabait, no? Napaka-humble. And it made me, parang sabi ko, gusto ko maging ganito, no? Kahit na, mayroon kang books and ganyan. You become a mentor to someone else who also wants to be like you, to be inspired, no? In fact, sa mga students ko, no, I always share my haiku with them, no, kahit hindi po literature ang tinuturo ko. And some of them would really tell me na na-inspire sila sa akin. And that alone, no, sabi ko, thank you Lord na I can make kahit little difference, no, in the lives of my students, na kahit isa sa kanila, ma'am, meron akong positive na i-contribute sa kanila, no, to be para sabihin sa akin na Sir Alvin, nakaka-inspire naman, no, yung ginagawa mo, sir. So, yan. Na-expand yung mundo ko, no? Tulad nga ng sabi ni Teacher Joanne, na-expand ako dun sa hindi ko alam merong such a world exists, no? Sana noon ko pa sila nakilala. But I'm thankful na I've met them, no? And I belong now to this very humble people. Yeah.
Thanks, Teacher Alvin. So let me ask you, how can we be a source of light to somebody who is going through a dark period right now? Anybody? If somebody around us or in our work is going through a dark time right now, how can we be a source of light to that person?
Alam mo, Paolo, no? It has been parang in-adapt ko tong klase ng philosophy during this pandemic na sinasabi ko sa staff, it is mas importante ang maging mabuti ngayon kaysa maging tama. No? Tayo dito, bukod sa magkakasama tayo sa trabaho, para din tayo magkakapatid. So magkumustahan kayo, tanongin niyo yung isa't isa. I tell them that. Magkumustahan kayo, tanongin niyo kung sino yung nangangailangan ng tulong. We need to support each other. Ready ako always to to provide a shoulder to lean on palagi kasi yun ang role natin sa buhay bilang tao, no, yung magsuportahan, magtulungan kasi kung hindi natin gagawin yun, paano na ang mundo na walang nagtutulungan, di ba?
Yeah.
Katulad sa Facebook, marami kang makikita during the pandemic. Yung mga namamatay na mga tao, hindi na sila malayo sa iyo eh. Naging malapit sila, di ba? Yung proximity ng death became very apparent, parang ang lapit, no? So, nandun ako palagi na ino-offer ko palagi yung nagme-message ako na baka gusto mo ng kausap, ganyan, or baka gusto mong magkita tayo, magkape, pag-usapan natin, kumusta ka na, ganyan. Hindi yung kumusta ka na tapos ang susunod na sasabihin sa'yo, pautang nga. Ganon, hindi ganon eh. Dapat yung genuine, dapat yung pakikipagkapwa-tao. No? Kasi pag nararamdaman ng tao na genuine ka sa pagre-reach out, therapeutic na kaagad yun. Kasi nare-realize nila sa biyahe, na hindi sila nag-iisa talaga. Exactly. No? Oo, hindi lang si Nino yung hindi nag-iisa. Pati sila din na may problema. hindi sila nag-iisa kasi when people experience sadness, difficulties in life, lagi kong kinukwento, may narrowing palagi ng isip, no? Parang kumikitid yung choices, parang feeling niya walang ibang choice kundi is either you depress or you don't depress. Pero hindi nila nare-realize na there's a whole bunch of choices around you that you need to see, and you need someone to just, lift you up, provide you with that helping hand. And I think I have been trying to do that during these past 2 years na I'm trying to lend a helping hand. Even sa staff, kahit sa messenger lang, sinasabi ko, kumusta ka na? You may namatayan, kumusta ka na? I hope you're doing okay. If you need someone to talk to, you can come to me. I have an open door policy at work. Sinasabi ko sa kanila, I have an open door policy. If you need to talk to me, we can talk. Pag-usapan natin kung ano yung problema. And I think in that aspect, medyo doon ako parang nakafocus ngayon sa pag-reconnect with people by providing a helping hand. Yeah.
Thanks, Teacher Danny, for those things that you said. Teacher Alvin.
Ano nga ulit yung question? Sorry.
How can we be a source of light to somebody who's going through a dark time right now?
Source of light.
Wala,
Okay.
clapper ka na.
So, mukhang akong kailangan ng light. Anyway, siguro as a teacher, no, as a teacher sa young people, siguro I want to take advantage of that role, no, sa kabataan kasi I'm handling young people na, and you know, di ba sa pandemic ngayon, ay nako, may mga estudyanteng nagsusulat sa akin how depressed they are. I cannot describe to you how yung mental health situation ng mga bata ngayon, no? Siguro there have been like siguro 2 or 3 cases na serious, no, sa mga among my students na sumulat sa akin, nag-email sa akin. Pero so siguro yung I can be a light, no, sa buhay nila during this time to provide them hope, no? Yun. And there's tulad na sabi ni Danny, hindi siya nag-isa. They should not kumbaga feel na sila lang ang may burden na yun. Yan.
Yes. Oo nga, tama. Okay, Joanne.
Mahalaga yung pangungumusta. Kasi hindi nga tayo nakikita. Actually, mas nangungumusta ako ngayong online. Yung mga taong hindi ko kinukumusta dati, na pwede ko naman silang makita face-to-face, mas kinukumusta ko na ngayon. Or kunyari, pag may naisip akong tao, I grab the opportunity to send a message na, kumusta ka na? Kasi madalas, parang pinapaisip talaga siya sa akin ng Lord. Kasi parang may pinagdadaanan din yung taong yon. Example, yung isang kaklase ko nung high school, bigla ko na talaga siyang naisip, kinumusta ko siya, yung pala at that time may COVID siya. So sabi niya, nagulat din siya, Lord, thank you. So, yun, tapos pinag-pray ko mas naging prayerful ako for others. Pag sinabi ko magpe-pray ako, pinagpe-pray ko talaga, hindi ko lang sinasabi, di ba madalas sinasabi, magpe-pray kita, tapos hindi naman natin nagagawa. Mas intentional yung praying for others. Even praying for people I don't know. May sinalihan akong group sa Facebook, hindi ko alam kung kasama rin kayo doon, yung quarantine tribute tips, kasama ba kayo doon? Ano to lumaki to nagsimula ito nung pandemic. Ang laki-laki na nung group na to. So in that group, you can ask anything, share anything. So ang dami-daming mga doon, people will share love problems, financial, anything talaga. So pag minsan may nag-share doon, and nagko-comment na lang ako, I will pray for you. Tapos sinusulat ko yung prayer doon mismo sa thread. And thankful din yung mga nakakabasa kasi talagang sabi nila, thank you, I needed that. So parang yun, hindi siya madaling gawin kasi paano ba yun, hindi ko naman siya kilala. But trying to step out of my comfort zones. Ayun. And also practical help. We cannot underestimate kahit small help na maibibigay natin can really mean a lot. And in my case, kami rin naging recipient ng practical help. May mga tumulong sa amin out of the blue. May mga nagpadala ng even finances, financial health. So nagugulat din ako, hindi naman nila alam yung need namin. Dumating lang, tapos hindi ko naman sila sobrang ka-close. So, very talaga sa akin yun. Grabe, tagos sa puso ko nung
naramdaman ko yan, Joanne.
Oo.
Na para bang, I never thought that people would give. I did not ask for anything, but they did. And I needed those things when they gave me those. Yun.
At the right time,
yeah,
diba?
At the right time. The right things at the right time.
So I try to give back din.
Yeah. Okay, so ngayon, we are now in Christmas season is in full swing in the Philippines. What is one thing you look forward to every Christmas, and will it be different this year? Will it be the same? Will it be different? And itong bagay na to, are you still looking forward to this now during Christmas? Anybody? Danny?
I started actually making Christmas different now, starting last year, and I'm going to continue maybe with this personal project of mine, because I realized, that as a child, growing up in a loving family, having to sit together during the Noche Buena is a wonderful, wonderful experience, no? And I noticed that during the pandemic, maraming tao na hindi nila naranasan na magkaroon ng Noche Buena. Na hindi nila naranasan na mag-celebrate kasi ang dami nilang pinagdadaanan, no? So last year I started with the project, no? Manny and I started this project last year, and we sponsored 2 families every Noche Buena, where we handed out yung Noche Buena items where the family can sit down and eat and talk and experience Christmas, na especially with the young children, na yung may mga murang kaisipan na nag-iisip na, normal sa bata yung mag-isip na, bakit sila may handa? Bakit tayo wala? Naranasan ko kasi naranasan na namin ng sumala. Yung may sinaing ka, pero wala kang uulamin. And may mga taong lumapit at tumulong na makaahon kayo sa sitwasyon na yun. And sa tingin ko, parang I've been given this position, this power, this opportunity, this blessing to do that to other people during Christmas. And I'm, as long as I live, I promised myself na gagawin ko siya. Na at least may mapasaya ko 1 o 2 pamilya during Noche Buena na maranasan nila na magkaroon ng masayang Pasko. No, kasi hindi tungkol hindi ang Pasko hindi naman tungkol sa regalo, tungkol sa pamilya at saka sa pagmamahalan ng pamilya. And yun ang iko-continue ko na promise ko sa sarili ko.
Okay.
Yun.
Thank you, Teacher Danny. Ikaw, Teacher Alvin. What is one thing you look forward to every Christmas, and will it be different this year?
Siguro the only thing that would be different no this Christmas is yung sorry yung phone ko talaga. Ayun yung I plan to have a Thanksgiving party. I don't want to call it party. Parang ano ba
Get
yun?
together.
With my I want to give parang to give back, no, and to express my gratitude for all the blessings that God has given me this year, especially to my family. Yun yung something I want to end the year with a grateful heart by giving simple celebration, no, with my family. Yeah.
Thank you, Teacher Alvin. Ikaw, Joanne.
Wala ako masyado. Ano nga ba yung tanong? What do I expect or what do I want?
Ano yun? What is one thing you look forward to every Christmas, and will it be different this year?
To be honest, the past Christmas parang nawala sa akin yung excitement. It felt like
It's okay. Ganon din
oo,
naman sa
oo.
marami sa atin.
Oo. Lalo na last year kasi walang celebration, nothing. We
Oo.
didn't do anything at all talaga.
Mm.
Siguro this year I just want my parents to be to be healthy. Ma-enjoy nila yung Christmas. And
Thank
yun
you.
din, family ko rin maging healthy.
Okay. So now we are down to our last question for our guests. So ito yung tanong ko. What are you most thankful for today? And what are some reasons to still celebrate Christmas this year? I'll start with you, Teacher Danny.
Oh, I have a lot to be thankful for. The fact that I'm still alive is something that I should be thankful for. And the fact that I'm being used to help other people through my profession as a psychologist, I think that's a great blessing, you know. Being able to be here at this moment, you know. Kasi sabi ko palagi, you know, when I talk to people, sometimes, you know, when you pray to God, sometimes the answer does not come magically in front of you, like, you know, like you're like Cinderella, yeah, like you're Cinderella, that you have a fairy godmother na lahat ng wishes mo natutupad. But, you know, God uses people sometimes to answer your prayers, and I try my best to become that answer to other people. You know, I may not be able to be fully present in other people's life, but somehow I would like to be able to create a spark in every person that I handle, that I help, and be able to have that spark grow into a light that that person can share to other people. And I think that's malaki ko nang dapat ipagpasalamat yun kasi sabi ko nga, inilagay ako sa posisyon na ito ng Diyos dahil siguro meron akong magagawang mabuti para sa kapwa tao. Yun.
Thank you, Teacher Danny. Teacher Alvin, so what are you most thankful for today, and what are some reasons to still celebrate Christmas this year?
Okay. Well, I'm grateful for being in the place where I am now, the season in my life now. And I'm also grateful for the fact that our family, we are still together. No, I know that a lot of people lost a loved one, a friend, and I'm very grateful for that. And a reason to still celebrate Christmas. Oops, sorry for that noise.
Okay lang.
A bus just passed by. Reason to celebrate. Well, of course, yung celebrating God's goodness in our lives, no? Whether we see it or not, it's there. The unseen hand behind our lives, no? And I'm a living testimony to that. I could see him working behind the scenes. Still have to see things positively, na meron pa rin tayong buhay at pag-asa.
Thank you, Teacher Alvin. Joanne?
Ako, thankful ako sa podcast na to. Thankful ako sa mga napakahirap mong tanong. Dahil
I know, right?
reflection.
Alam mo, daig pa yung mga tanong sa Miss Universe.
Oo nga.
Grabe po. Totoo ka dyan. Ako, ang hirap ng mga tanong mo, Pao.
Oo, hinahalukay ko yung mga damdaming, mga nakatago na.
Okay, so Joanne, sige, what's your answer?
Ang sagot ko, thankful ako na yung sa mga tanong mo, alam ko kung saan nanggagaling yung sagot. Ang sagot ay si Jesus para sa akin. Nisip ko kung wala si Lord, paano ko survive to? Grabe. Yun lang. Yung talagang mas nararamdaman ko na buhay ang si Jesus. And yun nga, I'm thankful ako na he came to the world and became a baby and he lived with us and he knew us. He knew how suffering was. He knew what suffering is. And he gave his life for us. And because he gave his life for us, we have another life to look forward to. Sabi ko nga kanina, this life is very hard. But I'm thankful for the hope that Jesus gives. This is not the end. This is just a temporary life that we're living in. Meron pang mas maganda na darating.
Thank you, Joanne. Of course, kung ako ang tatanungin nyo, lahat yon, all of the above na sinabi nyo, yun din ang sagot ko. But I would also I'm very, very thankful also for our health workers at saka yung other frontliners natin, like yung mga riders, delivery persons, yung people working in retail, yung mga scientists who are working tirelessly to improve our vaccines or to find a cure, at saka yung mga people who are saying yes to those vaccine tests. Can you imagine kung wala sila? So I'm very thankful for all of those things and at saka yung lahat and everything that you said. Okay, so before we end, let's hear some final thoughts from our guests, and perhaps our guests could also invite our listeners to things that you are currently involved in and how they could get in touch with you. I'll start with you, Teacher Danny.
Most of you might not have heard that I work for the Parole and Probation Administration. It's an agency of second chances. I always tell people it's an agency of second chances because we provide people who have taken a wrong turn in their lives to reform their lives outside the confines of the jail. And I believe that our work is apostolic in nature because we're bringing back the lost sheep into the fold of society. And if you have that capacity, that inner drive to help people, you may contact me. You can email me at dmcapili@gmail.com if you want to become a volunteer probation assistant, where you can help people change in your respective communities, become part of the change that you want to happen in society. So if you want to become volunteers, you just contact me. You may email me at dmcapili@gmail.com or contact me through my official mobile number 0919-912-9830. So I'll be happy to connect you with the right offices. We have offices around the Philippines in every city and municipality where you can be of help. Now, if you're listening, God is calling you now to become a volunteer for change. So if you want to help those who have, lost their way, tulong na, huwag mahiya. Kasi, ang pag-volunteer ay isang magandang paraan para mapalawak ang kabutihan sa mundo. No, pagpapalawak na at pagpaparami ng mga grasya ng Diyos sa buhay ng ibang tao. Kaya kung gusto niyo tumulong, sabihin niyo lang. And if you know someone who needs a mental health professional na hindi kayang maka-afford na magbayad sa isang therapist, you can contact me. It's either I can help you and make referral or refer you to a person who can help you. So tatandaan po natin na mental health is wealth. Huwag po natin pababayaan ang ating mental health. There is no physical health without mental health. And mind you, people, the United Nations has also said that mental health is a basic human right. So that's all. Thank you, Paolo. And I hope that, people listening right now would be able to somehow nahipo namin, na-touch namin yung mga nakikinig ngayon at sana ay tulong-tulong tayo sa pagpapanibango at pagbabago ng bayan natin. Salamat po sa inyo.
Salamat, Teacher Danny. Napakaganda ng mga sinabi mo. Teacher Alvin.
Yes. Parting words, tama ba?
Yes. Okay. Any final thoughts and how they could get in touch with you and get some of your books?
Yes, siguro I would want to leave with this, no? I've learned during this pandemic, no, that really nothing is permanent, not even this thing we're going through, no. It will pass. And I hope that everybody will still have the endurance, no? Hang in there. Wag tayong, let us stay strong, mentally, emotionally, and physically. And stay close to the people who can help us. Not stay close to them, like our family, our friends. Not to keep us, afloat. Mentally, to be sane in these times, in these crazy times. To remain sane in these crazy times. And yes, I want to take this opportunity, Pao, to promote
Yes.
my upcoming book. No, iniimbitahan ko po kayo na uh, suportahan ang second book ko po na collection of haiku and watercolor paintings by my sister. It's a collaboration between me and my sister, who is an emerging artist, and it's called Watercolor. Oh, sorry, Written on Water: Haiku and Watercolor Through the Seasons. It's a coffee table book, and if you're interested po to get a copy, message me lang po. Paano ba yun, Pao? Sa Instagram or sa...
Yeah, on Instagram, I think your handle is the Haiku Poet.
Yeah, at the Haiku Poet. Yeah, at the Haiku. That's my Instagram account, at the Haiku Poet.
Mm-mm.
Okay. And Merry Christmas to everybody.
Yes.
God bless you all.
Merry Christmas. And don't forget, Teacher Alvin also has a book already out. Yung Sunsets Are Sonnets. You can buy that on Shopee, I believe.
Yes.
And for those in the US, I believe you can also buy the ebook of that on Amazon.com.
That's right. Thank you, Pao.
Joanne, any final thoughts?
Wala akong social media channel. Titang-tita ako.
You can invite them to OMF Lit.
Oo, yun na lang. I invite our listeners to check out books at OMF Literature. We publish different kinds of books, inspirational, practical living, Bible-based books, children's books. Just visit our Facebook page, OMF Literature. If you want to send me a message, dun na lang siguro i-send, or just send me a message sa Facebook. I'd like to take this opportunity kasi we were talking about grief and loss, no? So one of the books that we published nga is The Season of Grief. Hopefully it can help our listeners not overcome it. The book does not promise that you will overcome your grief after reading it, but you will find a friend in the book who, from the stories of people who suffered grief during this pandemic. I also want to mention another book. We have a new book, yung Companioning, Walking Alongside Loved Ones Suffering from Anxiety. So, ang magbabasa naman ito, kunyari tayo, tapos meron tayong family member or friend who is suffering from anxiety, the book will help us. Kasi minsan tayo mismo kulang tayo ng practical knowledge on how do we help our loved ones. Yeah. So that's Companioning by Joyce Piapgo. Meron akong isang book, ini-edit pa lang, but I'm really excited about it. Hindi pa to lumalabas. But please, if pag lumabas na to, please,
you will watch out for that.
Watch out for it. It's called Broken Faith by Nelson D. It's a very honest book about disappointment and doubting God, which I think everyone is going through right now in this pandemic. So please watch out for it. Sa OMF Literature. We're also on Shopee and Lazada.
Thank you, Joanne. Yeah. So thank you very much to our guests, Mr. Danny Capili, Alvin Cruz, and Joanna Nicolas-Na. Salamat sa inyong tatlo. And that's it for this very special Christmas episode of the Real Life in Postcard Views podcast, available on your favorite podcast source. So we are now on Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube, Amazon Music, and Audible. Please don't forget to subscribe to this channel. We have new content every other week or so. If you're listening on YouTube, hit the notification button and drop us a comment below. Visit my website at paolomaligaya.org and follow us on our social media channels. Please also follow me on TikTok, and my content there is called The Word, wherein I read some of my favorite verses from the Bible. Thank you to our dear guests, and thanks everybody for listening. And from the Real Life and Postcard Views podcast, have a Merry Christmas.